Flexin' Joe and Robbie, coast to coast we roll, dropping knowledge on the market, yeah we in control. Big game stacking, but we cool as ice, teaching y'all the game and how to play it precise. Coast to coast, traders, we breaking it down. Stocks, bonds, options, leveling the town. Flex your brain, not your stress, stay strong. Building wealth with swagger, can't go wrong. Charts on my mind, candles in my sight. Bull or bear market, we taking that flight. Robbie got them patterns, Joe got the flair. Money moves surgical, chop it with care. Coast to coast, traders, we breaking it down. Stocks, bonds, options, leveling the town. Flex your brain, not your stress, stay strong. Building wealth with swagger, can't go wrong. From east to west, yeah, we paving the way. Outsmart emotions, don't let greed sway. One trade at a time, watch the coin, it flips. Success tastes sweeter when you got them tips. Coast to coast, now you in the know. With Flex and Robbie, pockets gonna grow. Stay tuned, don't coast, come ride the wave. This podcast, the edge you crave.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Coast to Coast Traders Podcast. I'm Flexing Joe.
And I'm Robbie.
What's up, Robbie? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How do you like our song?
Bro, I like that. I like that shit a lot, dude. Honestly, when I played it for the first time, I was playing it for my wife, and she was like, "Yo, this is pretty good. Who made this?"
Yeah,
awesome.
It was. I was surprised too, because in group, Depp had posted a funny, or not a music video, but a song about HP.
Mhm.
I was like, dude, this is such a good song.
Yep.
And I'm like, I haven't used this service since I had heard about it way back like a couple of years ago. I'd kind of forgotten about it. And so I was like, hey, let me just see what it'll do for the podcast. And that was the first go at it. So I was pretty happy with that.
Yeah, that's pretty damn good, dude. It's pretty good. So, how was your week, man? How was trading this week?
Week was good, green week, and just getting back to discipline, like we talked about. You know, we talked previously how I aired my dirty laundry and stuff, and so this week was really high as far as performance goes for me, like sticking to my rules and having really good execution, getting really great fills and stuff.
Good.
And just making sure that like I'm being patient to wait for that edge to present itself and then execute. With bids rather than market orders. And I think maybe I only did maybe 4 or 5 market orders this week,
Okay.
which is a very small percentage of the trades that I took. Pretty much everything else was all limit and ask orders. How
Right.
about you?
And when you say that too, just for everybody listening, you're also talking about like your sim trades as well.
Oh, sure. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, so like when you know, because you said like 4 to 5 was like a small percentage of your total trades, you know, that includes all the sim trading as well, because you still, you know, practice sim trading and, you know, and still continue to find that edge, which is awesome. My week was pretty good. My week was pretty good. Green week. Every day was a green day, so that's good. Monday was like trading really light, and like the market was crazy this week, man, because it was like, hey, there's no tariffs. Oh wait, just kidding, there are tariffs, and it went down, and then 2 days later it was like, oh, tariff pause, and it actually ripped up. After, of course, it probably stopped a lot of people out because like there's a nasty wick on that down move. Like at first it moved down, and then it just like soared. It's pretty wild though, how much the market is moving and how you can capture like a month ago what was a huge win like in NQ is now like an average size move, if not less than average, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And speaking on that really quick, Joe, like I know there's a particular individual that we talk to all the time that is feeling very like confused about the market and how like they feel like everything is totally different. And it's because of the volatility, and there is nothing different in the market except for the volatility. You know, a hammer candle is still a hammer candle. It's just that they happen to be 2 to 5 times bigger. So we have to curb our expectations, and it actually reminded me of, I had to dig it up, but PJ Matlock interview with Penny's Going in Raw way back in the day, he was talking about how like when the market was hot, he was really struggling, but when it was shit, a lot of his peers were struggling, and so he had to figure out how to improve his strategy to cope with the changing market situation.
Yeah,
And that's what we got to do.
I remember that interview. That's a throwback interview for sure.
Mhm.
You know, that's what trading is really all about. And I think that's what separates the masses, of unsuccessful traders, unfortunately, to, with the small group of successful traders, is that the ability to adapt, right? The ability to problem solve, to look at a situation and to react accordingly. And the number one thing continues to be to size down.
Yeah.
I traded the majority of this week trading micros. I had a fantastic week. Actually, I believe I had a record day on Wednesday as well. Maybe Wednesday, Thursday. So, but largely due to just trading micros and just like you were saying, using limit orders, trying to really target entries, having respectable stops. I didn't win 100% of my trades. Nobody does, but being able to just adapt and, shift your mindset and your priorities to how the market shifts, because who knows how much longer this is going to go on. Because it's pretty wild, man. Like NQs, I use a 20-day ATR. The 20-day ATR on NQ is like 757, it looks like right now. And what I'm looking at ES is 180, dude. 180 points on ES. It's nuts. Like,
yeah, for sure, insane.
I remember the 20-day.
It's funny because like we were just saying, oh, the market's insane, and last we were like, oh, but it's really insane because this,
Yeah.
But like, you know what? And then like, not that Trump's watching, but just for joking sake, like, let me show these guys and one up it, and like, we had probably one of the top few historic days in the market, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure, absolutely. I think he was just like, he kind of like, it's like that hold my beer moment. Oh, you think it's crazy now?
Yeah.
I mean, the craziest part about Wednesday too was that, like, I remember watching the market. I'm listening to a news squawker. I'm listening to, I think it was like a Truth Social post get read over the news squawker, like, Trump says now is a good time to buy, or now is a great time to buy. And I remember looking at the chart like, I mean,
but was it specifically, because I don't know which ones of these are memes? Like, was it the one that said now is a good time to buy a DJT, or was that somebody memeing over the actual quote? I don't know.
I don't know either. I know that then afterwards I heard the squawker talking about DJT was getting some movement, blah blah blah. But then like he literally told people like at the low of day, now is a good time to buy. And what happened on Wednesday? Like, how many points was that range on NQ? If you look at from like the opening range low, or the opening print at 9:30 a.m. all the way to where it closed, it was like 2,100 points on just that range.
From the low, I thought it was 24.
From the pre-market low.
Okay, yeah. Just like from like the
26
low, like from the initial tariff pause news, that first run up was like 1,400 points almost before the first pullback.
Oh my god, dude! I know.
1,380, and then it was like 2,100, or no, it was 1,900 points. By the time the session closed,
dude,
that was absolutely absurd.
And when it made that peak, like it made that like peak move at like 18,780, when it finally actually like quote unquote pulled back, that pullback was 18,456. So like it's just like, hey, we're gonna give you this little pullback here, which is like the old ATR. So like, when you really have to wait for the pullbacks, it's like you really have to wait. You can't be looking at it like, it's pulled back 50 points, we're good. Like, nope, you gotta wait for some like, hey, for sure, let me confirm here this is done pulling back. It's volatile. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you've got a really good system going, capitalizing on that volatility and that momentum. And you want to run us through some different trade setups, some different charts that we have here today, and just kind of talk about what you've been looking at and what you've been using.
Yeah, why don't we start actually with the 9th, since we were just now talking about the tariff news and stuff,
Yeah, absolutely.
because there's a couple of setups on that day. So specifically, we're gonna start. I think I sent you the 10-minute and 5-minute examples, right?
Yeah.
On
Yep.
that day. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So we have in pre-market.
Go to the pre-market one right here.
Uh, yeah, on NQ, we're struggling. We're like below VWAP for sure,
Mm-hmm.
but we are we push up quite forcefully, and not that you're necessarily looking at it, but I'll just explain. But on the 30-minute, it was like a morning star situation, and so not only was it like a CBC flip, but it closed with strength above VWAP. So then shifting gears to like the 10-minute or even the 5-minute, that first red candle, depending on which one you decided to took, was really the only opportunity for you to take that that trade before the next leg up.
Mm-hmm.
And so similarly, we had kind of a choppy day actually, though. On the 9th, we were range bound for the most part, just between the orbs, and I was so I actually had a diagonal trend line from top to, like, from the wick above the orb to like beneath the belly button. I was unsure, like we were kind of flagging here.
Yeah, I remember we both had like a similar kind of like this, like a you know what, a wedge. Or people want to call that a triangle, symmetrical triangle, whatever. But yep, for sure. You can, I mean, you can very clearly see just kind of marking the wick, like it, then it finally surges through.
Yeah, so actually I was still leaning a little bit bearish, but I was like, dude, I'm not going to touch this until I see a good move either direction. And so 12:10 hits, or 12:05, we start to get this pretty substantial move. And that was like, it was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You know what I mean? Like it pushed up. And I hope I'm not getting too confused, because I'm like looking at my charts, but then also looking at the screen that you're sharing here. But you see there that the first white candle, which would be red for me and maybe for other people,
Yep.
depending on which time frame you're looking at there, we had EMA confluence. We had a CBC flip. It broke the previous pivot high, so that was also just like more confluence there. So not only was it just a really good push upward, but it was basing on a pivot. And so taking an entry within anywhere there was like, I mean, obviously you'd have to make sure that your risk was something that you're comfortable with, because within that range, if I remember correctly, that was about an 80-point swing until it finally broke out. So they were handing out 50 points pretty easily, depending on where your entry was and what your risk was.
Yeah.
But there was just so much confluence there. We're above VWAP in a big way. EMAs are spreading. We broke a pivot and we're basing over it. Like, this is about as A plus as you can get, right? Unfortunately, as you're pointing out right now, as you're zooming in, there was a pretty nasty pullback there. But EMAs didn't flip, or they didn't cross, and we're still pointing up on higher time frames at this point. Because of the size of the move, we should be thinking this is consolidation. And as actually, I don't know if I've mentioned it on the podcast before, but as you recently heard from me, I was like, time equals intent. And this, in my opinion, was them intending to break out of the orb. And I knew that we had it was a 10-year bond, or 10-year treasury auction.
Yep. 10-year bond. Yep.
That we were waiting for.
Right here.
Yeah. So like, yeah. And that was but like, even prior to that, it's like, okay, we're starting to make some moves here, and we're pushing up higher. And so once that news candle came out, if you can shift to the 5-minute for a second, we had a massive close over the opening range high on that day.
Yep.
Yeah. So like, there's no way in hell anybody should be short here. If you had like a Fibonacci from the other day, or like you were looking at a different level, I could see how you could have potentially, but it was like, it would have been and I hate to say scalp, because that's a pretty huge move, but like it would have been a counter trade for sure. Because like, when I was looking at those levels, this was about a 30-minute. This is where the 30-minute was on the previous day, but like, sticking on topic here with the first opposing color candle, we don't have a 5-minute CBC flip.
Mhm.
It wicks just barely grazing the opening range high.
Mhm.
And then, as we've talked about several times on this podcast, when the orbs set with wicks, I like to draw supply and demand zones from the wicks to various bodies. And there was just such a clean pullback into those EMAs. Like it was the 2-minute 20 EMA and just pushing back up over the 9-minute, 5-minute 9. And if you had taken that, you could have got a really, really good trade. And hopefully you would, if you did, you were trailing your stop, because nobody in hell, well, there were people that knew, of course, but us plebs didn't know that Trump was about to go ham with the tariffs.
Us plebs.
Yeah, because maybe somebody was short, and then that first initial news thing came out, and it pushed back down like another 200 points or something, whatever it was.
Yes.
And maybe they're like, yeah, boy. But then, diaper change, right? And then it just rockets. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. This is not the market to be trading like without stops, right? Like you've got to have hard stops in place, whether you're on your phone funds or you're on a prop account, right? Like, because otherwise, like.
Yeah.
On the prop accounts, you're gonna pop the prop, bro. Like you're just it's gonna find out how much drawdown you have left in that prop, and it's gonna tell you that it's all gone.
Like that.
Literally like that. Like, because this was just an insane move. I mean, this candle right here is a 636 point candle in 5 minutes. The next candle is 686 points in 5 minutes. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely wild. Like, absolutely wild. I wish I could do like the 15-second chart like we could on like Top Step or something.
Top Step.
Yeah, but like,
yeah, I know that is a small inconvenience with Thinkorswim, but I mean, we can with Ninja, so I mean, it's fine. But like, so like the first opposing color candle, like, we got that plenty of times on that push up. Like it would have been very hard to find an entry. Or shoot, even the one at the 5-minute 1320, which is that first hammer.
Mm-hmm.
That was close to like a breaking base over the bond news, but it was still 40 points away from that previous wick high.
Yep.
So it's like you like, if you got that, you caught the knife, bro. Congratulations, you didn't get cut.
Yeah.
But any other time, I mean, that was just a lucky trade if anybody got that, because the wicks didn't touch. There's just no way that you could have a repeatable edge there, in my opinion, unless your drawdown is so great that you're literally willing to risk candle by candle or something like that. But like that's nobody that we know. That's big boy stuff, maybe.
Yeah, I would again, I would really love to see what that looks like, and honestly, I could probably fire it up. I'll try to do that. I would love to see what that looks like on a 15-second candle while we're talking about it. But if you want to talk them through, I'll look for that on a 15-second chart. You want to talk through them through another trade? Here we have on the 11th.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let me zoom into that on mine, so I'm looking at it as well. Oh yeah. Okay, so this was a pretty choppy day, and we had specifically at 11 a.m. we had a FOMC speaker. I think that it was Waller, that guy. So we had a really like huge wick, like it pushed up over VWAP, but instantly shot back down.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, we'd already closed below the opening range low, but pushed back up. So like in my mind, I know we're still chopping because there's wicks under the orbs, and I'm not necessarily trusting the EMAs at this point. Like it just, for me, I didn't feel like I had a great edge to take a short trade, even though like I was somewhat short leaning. And so I had set alerts around 18,300 and then 18,540, basically saying if we get a 5-minute closing below like the low a day or like above the FOMC speaker wick, then for sure I'm going long. But it didn't quite happen how I planned. I ended up taking a trade long much before that happened. Actually, where I had my levels the rip didn't quite hit until after we started making the move. So like on the 5 minute, we're pushing up over VWAP quite handily. It's a CBC flip for sure. And specifically for me, I was looking at like the 1 and 2 minute, but I'm looking at I always have the 5, 10, and 30 up. Sometimes the 30 will be like my 4 hour. It just kind of depends. But like if I'm actively in a trade, then it's the 5 and the 10 for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like switching between the 15, 1 and 2, just kind of depending. But like once we pushed over VWAP with so much strength there from the opening range low, I'm like, dude, there's no way this doesn't continue. Yeah, we didn't clear the Fed speaker wick, but this is just too strong of a move, right? And so we have like, depending on which time frame you're looking at, but on Joe's screen, it's going to be the 5 minute. That first red white candle there, pushing back up over VWAP, it was so primed to take that long. I didn't, because I hesitated a little bit. I was looking at the 1 minute, thinking to myself, is this as low as it's going to go? I didn't want to see like a 1 minute CBC flip and then like close under VWAP. So I waited, but my patience rewarded itself, because as you can see on Joe's screen, the 2 arrows, I went long twice there. The first one was for my customary 30 points with 5 micros, and then the second one was like 40 points on 5 micros, but practically bottom ticking both entries on the smaller time frames.
Mm-hmm.
But just having the patience, the first opposing color candle, like you can say, hey, I'm cherry picking these results because I'm finding the one that works, but like it's just like with any other strategy. We're EMA traders, we're opening range traders, but like when the EMAs aren't working, well, then we zoom out and we go to the higher time frame, right? So we're finding the ones that work, and everything is subjective. But for me, when I have certain candles closing with strength, then I can use this as simply one more piece of confluence, along with everything else, VWAP, EMAs, etc.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you happen to find the 15-second on that other one or no?
Yep, I found it. So this is what we're looking at right here. So you can see that initially there's this like push down, right? And then this is the pop up, and this is the top.
Oh, hey, the first opposing color.
Yeah, right. Even on the 15-second, right? But like this is the high of that bond news candle. This is what you're talking about here. This is a 40-point difference. But it comes back down, right? And I mean, even the 15-second candle, you can just see like how this is, the price is just jumping around, right? And there's even gaps and stuff. But
well, let's suppose, Joe, for a second, that this was like a 1 minute chart.
Mm-hmm.
So if I saw a move like that on a smaller time frame, and that first 1 minute or that first candle red bouncing off of EMAs, that's when you set a bid into that wick somewhere with a stop below it, and then hope you get filled. And so if like I would take that trade anytime on like a 1 minute or 2 minute.
Yeah, and if we just zoom in even closer, right? Like, if like you said, if you set a bid even like mid wick here, that's at 80. That's at 786. You're risking you're risking the candle low here, dude. That's 751. That's 35 points.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
It is a tough one. I mean, it's definitely fat risk.
I'd be bidding lower for sure. Like into that wick, I would. But like, if the move was that big, I would definitely be aiming for the lower end of that chart if I was trading at all. But I don't know. I would probably be too scared, frankly, even on the 15s, like especially on the 15-second, to try to take that.
Yeah.
But higher up, it got a little bit easier.
Yep. No, it did for sure. It did, and it got easier too as you went to like the. If I switch the time frame, it's going to lose this chart, so I'll go back to TOS. But it was definitely wild, man. It was what a time to be alive, right?
Yeah.
Let's see.
And then one more example would be
2 minute right here was great.
Yeah, or heck, dude, even that first the first red candle there too, because it's like above the wick to the left just a little bit.
Yep. Right
EMAs are extended, but we've talked about that. When the EMAs are extended, like you're not going to get that perfect tap when it's this big of a move.
Yep.
So when you first saw that tweezers bottom, then you could have definitely set a bid there with reasonable risk.
For sure. I think the number one call I'd like to say too is that while, everybody is going to find their own entry based off of what they feel like is appropriate and what their risk is, the number one thing to realize here is that the sentiment, right? This is an explosive move on news. Sure. This is not the move to counter trend trade. This is not the move to say, oh, I'm going to catch a counter scalp or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Because you know what? If you saw this candle and thought, well, that's some weakness here, I'm going to scalp this short. And you like, what did you get here? Like, shit, dude. Actually, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's chump change in comparison though.
Yeah,
but like,
it is.
Cause yeah, it is a lot, but like, you fought the trend to get this, which sounds good on it maybe in your head, but if you just joined the freaking trend, bro, you would have been rewarded 2, 5 times, 10 times over.
Right. Like, imagine you went short like when this candle closed, so you got in short at 360. Like, there's a 61 point move down, but if you didn't have orders set to capture that probably was so fast. And then like, so you did what? You caught maybe 50-ish points down if you're lucky, right? Versus had you gone long, that's 420 points. Like, and it sounds crazy, right? Because like it's 7 times the difference. But
right.
But how many times has this happened? This same exact style thing where, it drifts down 10 points, but then it pops up 70. That's very common. Those moves have happened plenty of times on news or whatever. And so people will think like, oh, I'm going to go short. All right, just scalp the short for 10 points, stops at break even. Your stop at break even is instantly stopped. And then like it goes 70. It's like, so why are you working so hard to catch this little scalp? And then I know a lot of people would just like, it's like their ego. They say, oh, well, I had a level there. So because you drew the level there, you think that now the market's going to respond to where you drew your level versus just you responding. That's your job. You respond to how the market is moving, and the market has just had this enormous move, this outlier event. It's like there's momentum, there's strength to it. It's a big deal for the tariffs to get paused. There is no short here.
Yeah.
There is no short.
Oh, for sure. And maybe before we move on, there's one more example if you want to switch to the 30-minute, Joe.
Yeah. I think I have the 30-minute already queued up. Yeah.
And so this was from the 8th, the big sell-off that day, Tuesday.
Yeah.
So just looking at the 30-minute candle, we have the CBC flip, and we push under VWAP.
Mm-hmm.
The first the first green candle in this case closes on VWAP. So this one was a little bit tougher because the wick was pretty tall. But I mean, that's when you use smaller time frames. I'm not executing on the 30-minute, but like this is basically the same. It doesn't matter what time frame it is. Like, use the data that you're given and then execute on the smaller time frame. But like, we got 2 full opposing color candles before the next leg, and these were like really good moves. So even if you're just targeting the pivot low of each of those opposing color candles, that's still a huge move. Like from the first one, that's about 100 points. From the second one, depending on your entry, 200 points.
Oh yeah.
So like, if you have that one, whatever time frame, okay, zoom in. How can you trade alongside that?
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. It's and this was the move. This is a 5-minute chart. I want to go to a 10-minute chart real quick because this down move from the day prior. This was Tuesday. Yes, I remember this, but I remember thinking that like this was like potentially the area to like stop, and it moved down and moved back up, and this was kind of yucky in through here because when it moved down, it broke under or it just barely missed breaking under like the low of day, and it kind of pushed back up, and then finally it did break in base under this like 10-minute 200, right? But this was like pretty solid. Like even if you look at candle by candle, flip is short on the 10, first opposing color candle right into the EMA, and like if you zoom in on this happens often. I'll get rid of the clouds so you just see the 9 and the 20. This happens often, like when the EMAs break and then you fail to close the candle above. Like that's like a, hey, look out. Now, again, this is more volatile, right? So, this is a 35-point wick from like here to here. But
Right.
if you wait and see what this candle does, I bet you if we were to mark this and then look at this 1140 candle on like the 1 minute chart, you will see it's going to go up first. And when this candle flips back red, it never goes like back significantly green. It's like, hey, now you know the bulls have failed. You can take this and then like, should you have taken an entry over here at like, 1287s? Sorry, 1287. My God. 18087. I don't know where the 12 came from.
Yeah.
But 18087, you got over 130 points there, right? So
yeah. Well, like looking on the 5 minute, that exact same area, you have a an evening star set up there.
Yep.
This is a little tough, but it's an almost perfect break and base under the previous pivot to the left.
Yep.
Now this one's a little tricky though, because like we're back over VWAP, but we're showing weakness just with that doji. So I could totally respect if you didn't take that, because we're back over orbs, we're back over VWAP, right? But as soon as it closed, like the next 15 plus minutes later, nothing, or almost one candle closed above VWAP, and everything else was under that, and under the orb and VWAP after that. And so from there, that's when it started to get really clean.
Yep. Yeah, it did. So if you grab it here, great. Maybe you trail your stop down, maybe you get stopped, but it gives you another, solid 15 minutes here to really consider taking it again, where they're showing you that it's weak. I mean, that's the 5 minute chart. We'll go down to like the 2 minute real quick. Here we go. So like I said, 1140 candle, it begins right here on this one. Oops. So when it begins here on this candle, you see like it pushes up, right? And then it fails. And like once that candle, and this is the open of the 10-minute candle right here where my cursor is. So when that candle finally flips back red, when that 10-minute candle flipped red, it never really flipped back green. Like maybe a couple ticks, but that's it, right? So you could have said, okay, I'm going to wait for this 10-minute candle to see what it does. If it surges upward, then I know the bulls are back in control, and I'll wait for a reasonable pullback with defined risk. But in this instance, I wait for this 10-minute candle, it surges upward, it starts to fade, it comes back down, and once that candle turns red, it's like, okay, like we're good now. That's it.
Yeah. And then after that, if you took any entry close to the opening range, the risk was probably barely 20 points.
Yeah, I would say if you got in, I mean, this would be a little bit more risk, about 30 there. But that's really it. I mean, this is the strong bearish candle. This is the sellers regaining control here.
Yeah. But like if you were still at all on the fence, then undeniably on the next 5 minutes, once the candles broke and closed well below any of those wicks, then there should be no doubt in your mind that you need to be joining the trend here. And
absolutely.
Boom, first opposing color candle again, and then with EMAs.
Yeah. And the EMAs help, like the EMAs do really help you a lot. They help you understand like the sentiment, right? And it's just very clear what the sentiment is, right? Like the 20 over the 9, it's not good yet. It's not long yet. You got to wait. So if you want to be long, you are really trying to get in close to these lows, but your risk is very well defined. But then like that's your risk. Like this candle, you're out. And more than likely, if you look at like how the wicks are, right? If there were people who were long in here, where do you think they were eager to jump out? They were like, oh shit, this position is real
I'm
red.
Almost back to break even, baby.
Yeah. And man, I feel like I could write a whole book about trades that are almost back to break even. Then I should have just said, hey, I'm gonna get out for a small loss and count my blessings. Because
but then how many times though have you been like that little greed guy in your head? Hey, it might go back up. It might go back up.
Hey Robbie.
Nope.
Hey Robbie, don't get out yet. Don't get out yet.
Yeah.
Ooh, we're flicking green, Robin. Robbie, look at it. It's flickering green. You can get some money on this one, Robbie. Yeah.
Too many times, brother. Too many times.
It's not good.
But I can honestly say not as much these days. It still happens from time to time.
For sure.
But you know, that's where we've both grown as traders, to ignore that sentiment as much as we can and try to stick with our system,
Hmm.
have those hard stops, etc.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And there's one more trade I'd like to. Do you have any more to cover? Or are you? I think we got them all, right?
That's pretty much it. I mean, I don't have any ones that I took, but I have one that we can comment on that another trader took.
Okay, where's that at?
Um,
And then I got one for same thing another trader took.
so they
And
took it
then
on
one,
ES.
and then a trade I took. Yes.
Yeah. Why don't you pull up yours and then I can find mine while you're doing that?
Okay, so trade I took was actually the same day as the tariff news, and
Okay.
I didn't. Okay, well, I took a few trades this day. Unfortunately, I took a stop like when this moved up and then pulled back down in here, and this was like a scalp trade. The big trade for me, though, of the morning of the day was here. So I saw we had this big, like, that we said this candle like push up, right, and it closes back under. I saw that we created like basically a double bottom here. So after following this double bottom, I was like very intrigued into like the price action. Like, hey, this is interesting that they're like this double bottom lines up with where this like buyer's bid is. So the open of this candle, it bottoms, but it still looks weak. When this candle pushed down and then it reversed and turned back, that's where I was like, okay, I think this is it. Like, this is done. And the bears have failed, because from this time frame to here, you know, we're looking at like 45 minutes or so. Is it exactly 45 minutes?
And they're holding the opening print of that candle too, which is great.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's about 45-ish minutes or so where it's like the bears have really failed to push it lower. So I knew where my risk was at the low of this candle. And if we go to the 2-minute, oh, I'm gonna have to add another day, aren't I? We go to the 2-minute, you can see it very clearly as well. On the 2-minute, you could see how like bulls have tried to push it up, it comes back down, it's fading, but like they can't do anything, and for a long time they're just not closing under here, right? Once we had that candle, same thing. I said it too. I was late. I went long in here, like 9:36 or something like that was my entry, and literally biggest trade I've ever taken. Rode this up for about 600-ish points. But I think I ended up getting out for around 500. So like it was pretty wild for sure. So that's that trade.
Yep.
That was on Wednesday. And then there was a trade that really quick that another trader had sent to me to review, similar to near this price action here. And I think what I said to them was, I think that they were just kind of over eager to, it was on the 2-minute. They were overeager to take a short, and it's right here. So, yeah, like we move up, you know, we get we're basically setting the orb high at 954. So now once you get in through here, orb is set, it knifed down through VWAP, and it already gave you kind of like this VWAP tap here, and it pushed lower. Then like when it pushed lower, like what happened? It hit like the open here, like what I would consider a target. Many times I've talked in trade reviews or whatever that the lower like 10% of an important candle is where I'll target scales. And then so I would define this as an important candle because at one point it made a new high of day, and we haven't come back from there, right? Made a new high of day. And then it continued higher. So like this was an important spot. And then he just like went short in here. And it just like kept going. So I actually think it was probably like closer to here, and this was 91. I mean, yeah, this moved.
Maybe they're hoping that VWAP was going to hold, but like that's an arbitrary thing to ask because there's no pivot on VWAP to the left, really, that I feel like he should be respecting.
Exactly my point. So like, there's no like if we removed all studies. There's nothing here that indicates from a price action perspective that we should stop. That's what Robbie's saying. Like we would stop here and we would continue back down. So ends up, you know, and maybe it was maybe the entry was perhaps actually on this candle once he saw that it closed back down a little bit. But enters somewhere in here, takes a big stop. And then of course we get the lower high where we get this, evening star.
Yep.
So and then we don't push down all that stuff. But what's your other trade, man? Which one you got?
So on the 10th, we can look at the 2-minute and the 10, for example,
2 minutes.
and on ES specifically.
Oh yes. Yes.
So this person was kind of struggling with the concept of the 10 and the 2 because they feel that often when they get in with the EMAs, it's like, by the time I did it, it's over. And they went long. I don't remember the exact point, but I think it was like on the 1 p.m., like 106 candle, like around the 20 EMA, 2-minute 20 EMA. And I'm like, bro, like, I understand that you're trying to trade the 10 and 2, but you're completely missing the bigger picture here. Like, that was I think it was a 60-point wick on ES from like the top to where his entry was. And that's like, you're just not reading the price action correctly. Like, this was a push up, maybe some profit taking or something, but on higher time frame EMAs, we didn't close with strength to show that this was any kind of a reversal. And so they went long on those 2-minute EMAs after such a big push down. It's like, dude, you can't do that because you just completely ignored that there was a huge seller pushing down.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, so it's like, I mean, the 10 and 2 EMAs, that strategy isn't always going to work, but we have to take the context of, like, just because this is a volatile day situation that we're all in, we can't ignore those wicks. The price action is still, that candles mean the same regardless of the volatility, and that was just too big of a pullback or too much pressure to consider going long against, in my opinion.
Bro, this is a 59 point candle on the 2-minute chart on ES. 59, yeah. Bro. Like, damn, that's some NQ numbers right there.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's another thing to say. It's like, if it was on ES and we're talking like maybe it was a 5-point wick, then maybe I could see that. But like, it's just the 2-minute candle closed, even though it was green, it closed under the wick of the preceding candle. And then the next, we have another red candle. And then we have a full-on CBC flip there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, even if we were, like, Maple always talks about the CBC flip and the EMAs are potentially a fake out. And so just looking purely at the 10-minute perspective, like the 1250 candle was like a hanging man sort of situation, or gravestone doji, or whatever you want to call it, barely closing over the 9 EMAs. And then we push up, rejecting off the 10-minute 200, and then closing with strength back under the 10-minute 9. So, I mean, there was so many things that this person unfortunately just overlooked. I think they actually said they don't look at the 10-minute very often.
Okay.
So, okay, that's fine if you don't, but like, if you're trying to trade 10 and 2, then you need to have the 10-minute up for sure. Or it could have been that they weren't looking at the 5, but like on multiple time frames, it was very clear that this wasn't a trade to take long.
Yep. Yeah, I'm trying to pull that up on the 5-minute chart right now as well. So let me just yeah, yep. No, and on the 5-minute, that looks extremely weak as well. And your 5-minute EMAs aren't even close to crossing there. So they went long. Did they try the long on the 2-minute 9 or the 2-minute 20 after that?
But based on where their screenshot was, I think it was around the 2-minute 20.
Okay.
And at first, when I looked at the trade, when I was looking at them, I'm like, oh, of course this failed because you were chasing. I was thinking they went short and that they got stopped on the wick at 1308 when it pushed up. But then I'm like, oh shoot, they went long, and I'm like, come on, bro.
Yeah. And
so
it's interesting because, like, I would ask that trader, and if they're watching, I'm asking you this. Be honest with yourself. When you saw this move that was so massive, did you really have a strong sense that you missed it? Because, like, was it a not a fear of missing out, but like almost like an anger of missing out? Like, because this pushed up, it was like reclaiming. This is where the 2-minute EMAs were crossing. Then it broke higher, After the 2-minute cross, this is your first 2-minute EMA retest, sitting beautifully on this pivot right here. Like, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
Your entry was supposed to be here.
Exactly, because like, okay, so sure, it's a 10-minute flip into the EMAs, but that was such a strong 10-minute candle on that push up. So this is a situation where I will sometimes take a counter trade because we're so extended from EMAs. Then we can try to target like mid EMAs or the 20 EMA for the push up. But yeah, so there was pretty much only one time to take the 2-minute EMA on this trade.
Yeah, that's right. And yep, right here, right. But then
just like you said.
Yeah, and then after this big rejection, like, it's over. I mean, it's not saying it's a short, right? Like, that's not enough to say it's a short. This is enough to say it's a short. By the time this happens, like, this is this candle. Like, when you see a move that is like this is enough to be like, time out. The bulls, we shouldn't be doing that. I want to join a bullish trade. I want to join alongside what looks like a bullish, micro trend here starting to form on lower time frames. We shouldn't have done that. That doesn't make any sense. What level did we just push into and reject off of? Hold up, I need to stop. I need to wait, because now this trade thesis has gotten seriously fractured, and I need to understand why. And so if you pause and you give yourself some time to just reflect on it, and then you kind of see what's going on. And then, of course, like, later, when it breaks back over and reclaims on that same level and then glides, kind of like this bull flag into the EMAs. Beautiful entry here, pushes up. It does break this pivot, so that's cause for concern. Comes down here. It sits on these wicks again, which, if we just take this line and move it up, you see how where this was, it's just sitting there. It doesn't close under the EMAs. Even if you didn't take the entry here, this showed you where your risk was. And then this is 52.78.
And then maybe you target that wick, you know what I mean? Which happened perfectly twice.
Yep. Yeah. So and then, of course, it just gets choppy into the end of the day. But that's hopefully, the thing is, right, is we all take losing trades and we all see a lot of things in hindsight. The tough part is seeing it in real time. And so
for sure,
this sort of review, and even if you have video of it, you can play it back and watch it print in real time. But even on a still chart, if all I had was this, nope. I need to see those EMAs holding. I need to say buyer step up. Like, even if we wick down, I need to see buyer step up and holding that wick and saying, I don't know what that was, but we're still trying to push this.
Right.
And here.
And this is just going to go just in your personal daily log. Like, how many times, Robbie, did you buy the dip thinking it was a dip when no, it was basically confirmation that the move was over.
It was the flip, yeah.
And I've taken that trade so many times that, like, I start to know better now because I reviewed those trades. I didn't only say, okay, that was a loser, but I like, why was it a loser? And how can I remember that for the next time? So I've taken enough of those trades to know that I shouldn't be taking those trades. And in addition, with all the other rules that we have, EMAs crossing on various time frames and such, it's just easier to just add one more thing to the next trade to be like, okay, saw that, I'm not going to do that.
Yep.
Or saw this, yeah, I'm going to do it.
Absolutely. And another situation that occurred with the same exact sort of setup is right here, right? So, like, you break down under the orb, okay, they start to look like they're holding a micro, high or low, very strong candle here, and then, like, what is this? Like, what is this with all these upper wicks? The wicks are, the upper wick is bigger than the rest of the candle. Upper wick, same size. Upper wick is huge. Upper wick is enormous. Closes down here on the 2-minute 20. Like, that's nothing about this looks bullish anymore. This looks like it's ready to round over. And I'm not then the next candle is doji, but the doji closes where? Wicks do the damage, body tells the story. They close back under that 2-minute 20. The next candle fades, the next candle fades. And that's all you need to know. You know where we're gonna go. Right?
Yeah, so I just kind of wonder what they thought their confirmation was to take that trade, other than potentially the 2-minute or the EMAs still being uncrossed. And so that's why we need to understand that the wicks are indicating that there are buyers and sellers. Pressure is in one direction. So if the pressure is from above, we need to have a strong close over the wicks so that way we can join the new pressure of sellers covering and then joining the trade in the counter direction.
Absolutely.
But we didn't have that.
Absolutely. I think, to wrap this up, we're probably beating a dead horse and we're already at 50 minutes. To wrap it up, it's important to remember that the price action, what you see printed on the candles, comes first. The rest of it is the gravy, right? So if the price action is looking bullish and you have a 2 minute, an EMA pullback or whatever time frame it is, and you're above VWAP and you're above the orb and you're here and you're here and you're here and you're here, it's like, okay, check. But the price action told you first which way it was most likely going to go.
Yeah, for sure.
So cool, man. What'd you think? 50 minutes? We cool?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
All right, man.
I think we can bullshit, but I mean, that's good enough. We'll bullshit on our own time.
For sure, bro. Great chatting with you as always. If you guys like this episode, please hit us with a like, subscribe, and comment. Help the channel grow. And we'll see you all in the next one.
Thanks, gang. Peace.